All right. Now 6 o'clock, so we'll call planning commission to get to order. We have roll call now, please.
Commissioner McLeod,
Here.
Commissioner Burton,
Here.
Commissioner Allen,
He's here.
Commissioner Wallace,
Here.
Commissioner Lynn.
Here. All right. Now we'll do the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which is one nation, indivisible. Okay. Now we had a couple of different meeting minutes to review. I did not see any corrections that needed to be made, but I was a little bit, I guess, preoccupied with other circumstances, so I may not have read it thoroughly.
Well, I did, and I don't see any issues with the packet. The minutes.
Anyone else?
No, I agree with her. I second it. So
Okay, somebody make a motion, please.
I'll make motion to go ahead and approve the minutes for the meeting.
it's the dates.
There we go.
Let's see, of November 8th, 2022. Oh, that's January 31st, 22 as well.
Can we have a vote on that? Or did I hear a second? We got a second. Okay, vote. Yay.
Yay.
Yeah.
Yay.
Okay, take that as a pass. And then we'll go on to our new planning commission support contractor. Yay, welcome aboard and please.
Right
have at it.
on. Well, thank you. I appreciate being here and the opportunity to meet you all for the first time and kind of begin some scheduling and coordination on some, city business that we plan on processing through the planning commission. First and foremost, I appreciate everybody taking the time to be here tonight. We don't have any formal action items on the agenda, obviously. The important thing for me to do and Mike to do, which I'll introduce Mike here in a second, is to provide some updates of the priority workload that we've been assigned with when we started our contract and kind of let you know all know where we're at with that. And then set some schedules, introduce our team and explain kind of how we're approaching a work plan with Benton City. And then finally, kind of pin down a schedule through the rest of the calendar year, and then an expectation you all have for us for, delivery of packets, notifications, and coordination with city staff. So, with that, I'll let Mike introduce himself.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here speaking with you members of the Planning Commission. My name is Mike Manning. I am with SCJ as well. I was recently brought on and given the great opportunity to work on help with the upcoming lifting of the moratorium that has been in effect, and working on some minor code modifications in anticipation of that moratorium lifting. I don't know if let's roll into it now. Or...
I'll just kind of explain
Okay.
our strategy with Benton City. So we started this contract shortly after the new year. And so a lot going on in Benton City, obviously, with the moratorium, a lot of interest in development, sub-area plan. And so, immediately we kind of focused on administrative applications and getting projects through and queued up for approval. And then, so Rachel Granrath, who's not here, she's the principal out of our Spokane office. And so Mike and I work with Rachel And so after that, we kind of, we're developing a plan with city staff to, coordinate and, put some, well, I guess coordination and programs in place so we can review and approve projects expeditiously, provide appropriate level service for residents, and then kind of reduce the workload on the administrative level. Kind of second plan of attack was opening up this moratorium and what that means. And so understanding, why it was put in place for the first, why it was executed in the first place. Some modifications to some of the development or the code language, which Mike will help explain a little bit. And then the sub-area plan. And so now we feel like we're in a really good position. Mike and I are going to be the primary contact supporting staff here. Mike has a tremendous amount of experience with the city of Pasco as a planner. I'm supporting, some of the, I guess, legislative. The two of us are going to be working in partnership, but I'll be kind of the lead on some of the legislative processes through city council and planning commission, amendments to the comprehensive plan, and then coordinating with Mike on, code review, development review, amendments to those aspects that ultimately need to roll up into the comp plan amendments. And then, Rachel Granrath, her, skill set is she was a planning director. And then she's also worked extensively with floodplains. And so we're kind of leaning on her to help in that, in that capacity for expertise. So I'm located in our Wenatchee office. Mike will be located in the Spokane office. Currently he's in Tri-Cities. And Rachel's located in the Spokane office. I have on here the review of the project tracking sheet. So some of the projects that we've been fielding from residents, there have been a couple requests for 4-lot short plats, and we could not proceed on those because of the moratorium. There is a county resident on the northeast corner of the city limits that is interested in an annexation of, let's say over 30-acre parcel. And then we've had one industrial application that was in process when we started. And so we're wrapping that up with city staff for approval. And just as of today, we initiated 3 pre-application conferences, all commercial projects, and we'll kind of support those through application. So we feel pretty good about, the administrative processing and supporting residents. And then I think we're building a solid plan with staff to kind of support them and the city as well. Are there any questions around SCJ or anything that you all would like to see or hear or know more about?
I really like the feed out that you just gave us
Yeah.
regarding what you have addressed since you came here. That is great to have that information, because that's kind of been handled separate in the
Okay.
past from the planning commission, because we're not really boots on the ground doing the technical reviews and approval of those documents. It's great to hear that. Thank you.
Okay.
And I would appreciate hearing more of that information.
Well, that's
We've been
Great.
updating the chapters in our ordinances a lot. That's what we've been really focusing on.
okay. Well, that's great feedback. And that's kind of why Mike and I talked about this. And, it was kind of odd where we don't have an action item, but we felt like it was important to, one, introduce ourselves and put a face to the name, and then kind of prep for some of these big ticket items that we're going to be, presenting to commission, getting recommendations for approval or denial, bringing that before council. we want to understand your schedules, what we can plan on, how we can coordinate with Carla to prepare packets and keep you guys apprised of what, what's happening. And then quite honestly, I was reading the hearing packet from January 31st and I'm going to talk about the sub area plan and some of my thoughts going forward. But I feel like, and again, it's a public hearing, so you don't, and I wasn't there, so I can't read the room and know who the residents were, but it feels like maybe there's some things that we can do to help support outreach and notifications and awareness of, to the community of what's going on and provide them opportunities to come back and speak to you all. So yeah, we feel like this was an important step tonight and then lock down a schedule, and then Mike and I can start game planning around that. So I appreciate that feedback.
Margaret decides what our schedule is. She calls us and we get dates that we all can get to.
So while on that note, and for you all to be thinking about, we could at the end of this meeting, that's kind of what I want to like really nail down. So in Washington State, we technically need to have at least 10 planning commission meetings a month. And
A year.
I mean, a year. I'm sorry.
It's like, I quit.
You're like, so I'll see you tomorrow.
Sorry.
Man, you guys are quick. Holy smokes. Couldn't even let me correct myself.
Occasionally.
All right. 10 a year. And so, we missed February. And then we would probably expect to cancel the one in December. And so I feel like, after tonight, we can put a stake in the ground on when you all want to meet. You guys can put it on your calendar, and then Mike and I can just, plan on doing that. And we don't need to be here all the time. We can do things remotely, so we can make it easy and be, cognizant of the city budget and all those things. So maybe as we give you updates and kind of what's in front of us, kind of be thinking of a night that works, a time frame that works, and then how much in advance you all would like to receive information to review. So with that, you want to give kind of a little overview of where we're at with the moratorium?
Yeah, so I have had the opportunity to work on some code updates related to this moratorium. I've spent some time familiarizing myself with where Benton City's been in the last year and the moratorium that went into effect last May.
May I cut in, please? This is Don Allen. May I cut in, please? Before you get into this moratorium, I would ask, I have a question that's directed. May I have the floor, Jeannie?
Yes, Don, you can.
Okay, I tried to get my mic to get through, but I couldn't get through. Okay, what I'm asking, and this is directed to Mike and Brandon and also Carla. Mike, I'm thinking about the moratorium. I'm also wanting to know about the moratorium and what we changed before and what we're going to change it to now. And what was the idea of in the beginning of what we were trying to do with the moratorium? What were we trying to do there to begin with? And did we make those changes? And what are the changes? So I'm kind of concerned about that. So this has been going on for a while with the moratorium, and I'm really glad to see that we're going to try to get away from it. I'm also concerned with the idea that in the beginning, when they started talking about a planner, that we had ABHL that was our planners, and now we have you guys, SCJ, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so is the city still planning on having its own planner? Or are they planning on having you, your company, represent our city?
Okay. Hello, Don. It's good to see you again.
Thank you.
This is Brandon. Okay, so on the planner position, part of the reason why I'm here today is we did interview 2 applicants this morning. And so the city is aggressively moving forward on hiring a full-time planner, and it would be in a director capacity. And we were, or me personally, I was excited about the level of knowledge from the applicants that we heard from today.
Okay.
And so I think you all will be, pleased in the next couple weeks when you can get some momentum on that. So yes, you are definitely getting a in-house planner at a director level.
Okay, and this person is not going to be working for SCJ. This person is going to be working for our city.
That is correct.
Okay. But will they be connected with SCJ at all?
No,
Okay, so they're independent of that. But that's coming in, what time frame are we looking at, Brandon?
okay, they will be a full-time employee for the city of Benton City. I believe they will work for the Mayor Lehman. And I would expect, I mean, depending on, who the mayor and council decide to hire. I would expect this person could be here within 60 days. And that's that's being conservative because I don't know what their schedules are and all the details associated, and I'm not going to overstate obviously what the mayor and council want to do there, but it will be soon, Don. I promise you that.
Okay, my other question that I have with all this also is that over a period of time that we've had ABHL in place, they've made changes to our code and in several different instances, some of which, people may or may not like, but nonetheless, they did. And I'm wondering, in your capacity as planners, do you plan on changing any of that stuff that ABHL passed?
Yeah, so where we're at with that, I mean, and we did include a memo of the code sections that we were asked to review and kind of support some modifications to them. Right now, we're drafting some recommended changes at the direction from Mayor Lehman and council. And I think, well, we're preparing that for review by Department of Commerce. And so timing wise, at the very least, I would expect a detailed review of that when comments are received back from Department of Commerce of, what those changes are and how they feel about them. Part of why we're here tonight is to gain any kind of insight from the Planning Commission if there are specific aspects of those code sections that were included that you might have interest in SCJ taking a look at and bringing attention to it through the mayor and council.
Okay, I'll mention this, that I have brought this up to city council before, and I'm not talking about my issue with short plot. I'm talking about the code sections and Title 17 that they passed, that city council had passed, and we recommended that they did as a planning commission. We did do that. And the thing of it is, there's sections in there that I brought up to city council that I thought had issues. Those issues that I brought up were never addressed. And so when that time comes and we're doing all this and you're going to be making changes, I would like for you to look in Title 17 to see if whether or not it benefits the people and the city to make things simpler without making things so difficult. And I think there is a lot of issues in that Title 17 that need to be addressed and have not been addressed. So hopefully we can do something about that. And if the planning can do something about that, that's where it's going to start.
Okay, so just so I'm clear, Title 17 for subdivisions.
Yes.
Okay. Anything in particular within Title 17?
I'm not going to get into that right now because I don't have that stuff in front of me, but I do have where I had looked at it before and I had issues with it. I brought it up to city council. They went ahead and passed it anyway. So I'm just saying, I'm hoping now that this time that maybe the planners can look into it and see if some of that stuff needs to be changed. And if you look it over, maybe you'll find that.
Okay. Um,
It's pretty lengthy, and it's
Yeah.
a heck of a change from the original, from the old code to the new code of what they passed when they did. And it brought a lot of people in to having issues because the new code changed a lot of things. And so that all has to be addressed now. And if there was an issue, those issues need to be taken care of and discussed between the planners. And I think if you look at some of that, you're going to see it.
okay. No, that's really helpful. Honestly, I will tell you right now, the current focus that we've been directed to look into is Title 20, the zoning code, the zoning code. I don't know if we're doing any evaluation of Title 7 or Chapter 17. But your point is well taken, and I think we can add that as a notation when we provide our feedback to Mayor Lehman. And I think so. From what we understood with the moratorium, again, that was pre us. So we're still catching up on a lot of the details. What you know.
I can mention one thing I think would help with this, and just one section on it by itself. And the line adjustment in the old code was talked, very little was even brought up about it. On the new code in Title 17, it was a major change. And there's like 3 or 4 pages that was talked about that wasn't even in the code before. Matter of fact, line adjustment wasn't even talked about to speak of. So they brought in something brand new. And I don't know if anybody really looked at it that close, but it changed a lot. And
Dawn, this is Michelle McLeod. Are you talking, when you say line adjustment, do you mean the lines that hook up to the water and sewer?
no, I'm talking about a property line adjustment.
Oh, I see.
Boundary line adjustment.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what I'm talking. I'm sorry, Michelle. I should have put that out there. I didn't. No, line adjustment is for adding to one piece of property to another, and you have to make an adjustment to that line on the property line so you can bring that property in. Well, it had in Title 17, it had very little that's just about that, very little. And so when ABHL got involved and put that together, there was a lengthy change in the code, plus a lot of other stuff that was changed also. And something like that, when we got it, we didn't have much time to look at it. And I'm not looking for an excuse. I'm just looking at, we didn't have much time to look at it. And so I brought it up to the attention of the city council, and they were to look at it. And so they didn't have much to say about it. So it went ahead and passed it.
This is Michelle McLeod. In Don's defense, he was gone for a while and he came back right in the middle of Chapter 17.
Okay.
And what he's talking about is that there's been a lot of additions to the codes. And that's why the moratorium was set, because we only had a little over 60 acres inside of the city limits in town to work with. And we needed our codes up to speed before we could let anybody develop anything else. And so he came in right in the middle of it. So I understand how he felt about that, because there was a lot of additions to that code.
Yeah, and
Thank you, Michelle. That's exactly what did happen. And I was unable at that time and not able to be where I like to be. But anyway, that's beside the point. The deal is that Title 17 is very important for this city. And I'd like to see it addressed. And if they made some changes to it, which they did, let's make sure that those changes are in the best interest of the people and the city, not anything else. Okay, and I'm not saying anything else. I'm just saying anything else that's involved that we don't need to be a part of, then let's not be. But it made things really difficult, and it made things very difficult afterwards too. So, and Michelle's right. That's exactly what happened.
okay,
It's a
I'll get
huge,
off my soapbox, okay?
it's a huge packet. We had to put the moratorium up to
Yeah.
stop the developing so that we could be up to code in our development because we were getting taken advantage of. And we needed to be accurate in our codes.
Yeah. No, and I can appreciate those comments and I think that's kind of resonating absolutely with Mike and I of, where we can start to look into. I think, a review, especially for Mike, of going through that code section or that chapter. I mean, I think not only is that, common practice, but it'd probably be really interesting now that he's getting way more familiar with Benton City. So
Yeah, I definitely haven't had a chance to dive into Title 17, but I'm happy to do just that and take feedback from you folks and help create something that works for you and the people of Benton City.
yeah.
Mike and Brandon and Carla, I do have to say that when you look at this code section, I think it would be in your best interest to look at the old code section of Title 17 and then look at the new one that was passed. I think it was passed in 21, if I'm correct, isn't it, Michelle?
What's the date on that?
Title 17 was passed in 21.
We don't have the exact date for the record to
But I'm
answer.
thinking it's somewhere in there. So the old code is quite a bit different than the new one that ABHL put together. And so there's a lot of changes.
I know that AHBL passed some, I think it was related to Title 20 in December of 22. So we're talking a few months ago. I don't know if that was the same. And it was prior. Was Title
17 was first,
17 came
Yeah.
before. Okay,
and it's extensive, both of them are.
okay.
And some of these examples, like Dawn and Michelle just addressed, these are new codes that were brought in that people weren't familiar with. So
Sure.
that's why there's so much interest. So
Sure.
there might be a little education and they're probably required by law someplace out there, but they're new to us. So it's learning how to deal with them and help our citizens cope with them would be
Absolutely.
helpful.
Yeah. And I think that's, kind of where we're at. I mean, when we came on board, it was a heavy lift to get things in place to open up the moratorium.
Mhm.
May 17th is the day. I mean, we can't extend it anymore. And I think, where our priority was focused is on Title 20, the zoning code, knowing that that's going to be really the driver, even into Title 17, where you're, executing, land divisions that need to be implemented through the Title 20 zoning code. And so I think there was some, low hanging fruit in Title 20 that gave the mayor and council comfort to open up the moratorium. And then the other thing I'll mention is, just because we're focused on the moratorium and Title 20 right now, doesn't mean we can't amend, code language and development standards going forward.
From the city council's meetings or their minutes from the last meeting, they plan to have a public hearing on this discussion, the code changes, on their council meeting on May 16th, 2023.
That is correct. Yeah.
So that's when you would need to come and discuss that and talk about your inputs and your feelings.
And I can help break down this timeline a little bit for you folks.
Yeah, why don't you go
Yeah.
talk about that?
This is Michelle McLeod again, and it says that the planning commission has a April 20th meeting.
So that's part of what we're hoping to do is, it sounds like it was the third Wednesday of every month, but maybe we'd like to move that to Thursday nights.
We have a flexibility of two different days that we've worked with Margaret, but I don't know who set this day.
I believe I followed the sequence of this just as a placeholder of an idea of what that timeline might be.
We're open and flexible to whatever works for you all. What Mike and I would like to do is I mean, if it's most convenient for you to settle on a day, like the third Thursday of every month at 6 p.m. We will build our schedule around that. And then you can just have a plan of a planning commission one night a month.
And that is what we typically do. What is that? Carly, help me. First Wednesday.
Thursday, the third Thursday of the month, so it wasn't on the same week that a council meeting was. Or anything like
Yeah.
that, because I mean, office staffing. it's
Right,
Like,
right. I don't have a problem with it,
So-
but we already have like a pseudo standing date. I'm open to modifying it.
I
don't-
work a lot, so I
So,
need to know
please.
when our dates will be.
Yeah, I'm just
Right.
saying,
Yeah.
I'm open to changing the date. If you want to move it to Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, others may have. more.
The only dates that, of course, aren't flexible revolve around the state required notices. However, that doesn't have to do when we have to meet. We're just hoping to schedule meetings around when we can best provide feedback in
Mhm.
accordance with those. Those-
Okay.
If you guys wanted to stick to
Timelines.
the normal Wednesday,
The Thursdays.
Okay.
So I think a Thursday, the third Thursday of the month, I mean, if we have a set date. Then we just block that out for the year,
Mhm.
and that is the date and time.
Yeah.
It will be.
That, if that works for me, I will commit third Thursday of the month,
Thank you.
every month.
I'll commit to that too.
perfect.
So I think that does hold with the 20th. Correct. Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay. Perfect.
And then on that note, what we'll do, if, we're targeting a public hearing with city council on May 16th, then you all can expect, we'll provide an update to that process again at our April meeting.
You'll have some input for us on that date, what you're
Yeah.
thinking.
Yes.
And we also, this is Michelle McLeod again, we also get our packets delivered to us on our porches.
How nice.
I know that they go online and sometimes we look at that rather than our packets, but we like that.
Okay.
Because the internet has failed us numerous times here in the city.
Well, from our perspective, we're going to focus on the deadline Carla gives us, and then we'll just build our schedule around that.
'Cause I travel, so I work 40 to 60 or more hours a week at times. So I have mine with me. So, it seems very, very hometown to get your packet on your porch.
No, I love it.
But it's more convenient for me because I'm always going somewhere.
You have fewer porches than me.
That's, I mean,
Well, we'll sync up with Carla on, what works for her schedule, and then Mike and I will build ours around that. And then we can definitely provide hard packets, or Carla can. And then we can also provide electronic packet that can be emailed to or posted to the website, and cover all your bases. Whatever you all prefer.
we don't have the laptops like the council do.
Okay.
So
You
we,
guys can email it
We'll
to
just-
me. I will print it off.
Got
we
it.
will have it hand delivered and.
Am I still connected?
Yes, you are,
Yeah.
Dawn.
All right, then. I was just gonna say, I don't mind I like a hard copy. The only suggestion that I have with all this is that these packets be brought to us in a timely manner, not 2 days or 3 days before our meeting. Sometimes these packets are really big and it takes some more time to do what we need to look at. And so what kind of a schedule can you give us on a time frame between when we're gonna meet and when that packet arrives on our front door?
Let me see, April 20th. I mean, if we're, for example, we're targeting an April 20th meeting.
Okay.
Mike and I can have a packet complete by Thursday, April 13th, which would be 7 days in
Yeah.
advance. Is that enough?
I think that's a lot
That
better.
works for me.
Okay, we can do that.
That's a lot better than the day before, because we have had them the day before a meeting and we've had
yeah,
them.
we canceled those meetings.
Yes, we did.
Right.
Certainly did.
This is Jeannie, and I'm going to mention though, when we get back around, we swing through that comprehensive plan and we get these huge packets, we're gonna expect and require more than 1 week.
Yeah.
So just keep that in mind. It
No.
was really tough moving through that last comprehensive plan update because they were fat.
I
and
was traveling.
it was crazy, but anyhow,
Crazy.
we'll be a lot happier and easier to get along with.
Yeah,
if we
no.
have a little bit more
Uh,
time to do
yeah,
those
well,
big packets.
One
That's-
packet we did have a while back was almost 200 pages, and we got that was 17, and another one, an annexation, and it was delivered to us the day before.
Yeah. No, I can appreciate that comment. And
And we did not have that meeting.
and yeah, we are going to be approaching some, some pretty significant documents for review. Definitely some comp plan amendments.
Right.
Part of the discussion tonight is kind of sub area plan, and I kind of want to talk to you all about, my thoughts around that. And then, the moratorium, there'll be due process for that. And, Mike's really taking the lead on that guy, but, yes, point well taken.
This is Michelle McLeod again. The city also mentioned when the packets are so huge, having 2 meetings. So, if it's so overwhelming that we can't make good decisions, that's a consideration.
Yes.
That's a good.
Another thing we could do too is, we might maybe provide the opportunity for a workshop where, for example, if there's an extensive document that's going to need formal action by the planning commission, maybe we schedule a workshop a week in advance where we can kind of have a more, tabletop productive, meeting to kind of not take action, but just review the document and kind of be prepared for questions. And so Mike and I, we can definitely accommodate, what you all need for sure.
That would be great because our best decisions were made like that.
Yes, they are. Those pseudo dry runs, those would be invaluable because what happens, we get in these public hearings and we're hearing the stuff
Yeah.
as the public's hearing. And so we're ending up participating because we're committed citizens too, and yeah, it's not good.
Yeah, well,
so-
and and that's honestly why we're here tonight, because, there's some big items going on. And then, I also read through your January 31st minutes packet from the public hearing, and I kind of felt bad. It seemed like there was a lot that you all were taking on, and it seemed like some of the questions could have been addressed by, something that Mike and I could have done with, maybe some notifications to the community or inviting them, to some of these events. And so that's what we're trying to prevent going forward, is that you guys are not, caught on your heels on some of this stuff.
Well, so that you're not caught on your heels regarding this public involvement. A lot of what's happening is that you're in the planning business. There's usually, anyhow, we're only planning for our little circle. We're not notifying people outside. Well, those people get wind of it.
Yeah.
That meeting was most of the people that were being impacted. They weren't living on Benton City property. They were living in the county.
Yeah.
They showed up. We need to reach out to these people and get their input, and it could give us a better product.
Mhm.
It's not, don't be selfish kids on the playground. Let's try to play together. We can all glean better quality communities if we cooperate and know what's going on. But that was a lot of what turned out to be what occurred at that hearing. And that's why I came back around to the public involvement, because we're doing what the law says, but that's the bare minimum. If you want to do, you can do what the law says, or you can do a good job. So, and we used to be able to put it like out in the newspapers. So it had broad distribution. It didn't just go to Benton City. It was required by law to be in the paper.
It
Well,
still is.
but people don't get the
People don't
paper.
read the paper.
So, and they don't carry those notices as often as they used to. It's weird,
Yeah.
but and that's just to give you, because we've ran across this over and over and over again. And that's where the serious angst, the anger that I've seen come out is almost exclusively and they're butted right up. They'll be the impacted party, but they weren't within Benton City's zone,
Yeah.
you know,
Right.
our city limits. So,
Right.
and that's just something we can think about.
And
And
oh,
I was just gonna say, I mean, they weren't just angry of
That's
what was
Lynn.
happening. I'm sorry, Commissioner Lynn. They weren't angry with just what was happening here. They were angry that the builder didn't tell them that that was a possibility, and they paid extra money evidently for a view, and they're concerned with the light industry, you know, that could block their view. And also some of them, a lot of them had kids. And, you know, now there's going to be people moving in apartments, and they're concerned about the type of people that are going to be moving in. And so you can understand that they'd be upset. I'd probably be upset if I knew it was over there too. So I think as she said that, you know, they were justified, and if they follow through what they said, they plan on getting a lawyer. So
Jeannie,
This is,
want to thank you for allowing me to speak, and I'm going to get off the soapbox and let you people continue on with your meeting. And thank you also, Michelle, for what you had to say. Thank you.
you're welcome, Dawn.
Thank you so much, Dawn.
I'd also like to say that we help people in the county. We just recently rezoned properties so people could have insurance and trade their mobile home for stick-built home. And so we do care about those people, and the people that came here are very close to the people we just recently helped. And I know that the council was able to contact them. So there was something went wrong in the contacting of people. Yeah.
And, you know, it is what it is. It was unfortunate, and it was probably insightful on different levels too, of figuring out, okay, how can we improve? How can they pay more attention, or, what, how can they follow and be involved, and I think that's, again, kind of why we're here, of maybe, there's some things that I was reading in there is like, it didn't seem very fact-based, and it's like, okay, well, let's start presenting, the facts behind what's being processed, what's being proposed. Mike and I had some ideas about maybe some creative ideas for, community outreach. It could be as detailed as a workshop, and we invite folks. It could be as simple as a large posting on a key transportation corridor that kind of explains what's happening. Yeah, all your points were well taken. I think this is validating some of the stuff that we're hoping to put in place too. So. Okay, anything else on the moratorium, or maybe the high level sections of what we're looking at?
Yeah, so the sections within Title 20 that we've taken a close look at with guidance from Mayor Lehman is for one, the residential design standards, and specifically setbacks. Mayor Lehman has expressed the desire to increase residential setbacks specifically to 20 feet on side residential setbacks. The other section we looked really closely at was the off-street parking, specifically residential parking standards. With direction again from Mayor Lehman, she's hoping to see a parking standard of a minimum of 4 off-street parking spaces for residential units that exceed 3 bedrooms. So what I drafted was a parking table that includes 1 required parking spaces for a studio and 1-bedroom units, 2 required parking spaces for 2-bedroom units, and then anything that's 3 or more bedroom, 4 required off-street parking spaces. Again, that was at direction of the mayor. And then
Is that for residential or?
residential, yes, sir.
Can you say that again? How many for each one?
Yeah, so if you're looking at a studio, a unit or a one-bedroom unit, you're looking at a minimum of one space required. For two-bedroom units, 2 spaces, anything 3-bedroom or more, 4 spaces.
Do you know if we have anything?
Okay,
in the-
that's what I needed to know.
Is there anything in the code regarding people parking RVs on the street?
Yes.
Yes,
Storage,
we
what's
already,
considered-
we already have that covered, and if it blocks it, you get a note from her, probably city code.
Some
and you have to
some of the
move it.
communities have a 72-hour time limit. It has to be off the street.
Sometimes it's just moved to the other side of your house, whatever's not blocking the view of the neighbors.
Now the setback, I knew you were gonna talk that. We're kind of a rural community. We have a lot of individuals in town that love their pickups.
Mhm.
And a lot of them love crew cab pickups with long boxes. That's a 23-foot distance. So think about that when you come up with those setback numbers. And that's about the same distance as a big passenger van. So if you figure 23 feet, a couple of feet to the sidewalk, a couple of feet between the garage door and the pickup. Think about that. One of my pet peeves is when I'm driving the crew cab truck around sometimes, all we want to find the engineer that designed design things,
Mhm. Yes, sir.
but he probably was driving a Honda Civic for all I know.
This is Michelle McLeod again, and Janice and I were both working on that when we were doing setbacks on both sides of the homes. And we had the garages with the 5-foot, and then the other side of the house was the 10-foot. And I suggested at that time that it should go garage, house space to get 15 feet for emergency vehicles.
Mhm.
And I don't know if that ever really sat with the city council.
So the way,
But the 20 feet, so you're thinking 10 on each side of the houses, and then so to make 20 or a whole 20?
no, yeah, so what you're
So that'd be
looking at
40 feet.
with the existing standard is in many of the zoning districts, it looks like 5 feet on the side that does not have the garage and 10 feet on the side that does.
Yeah.
The
Mhm.
proposal is to make a minimum of 20 feet on both sides.
That would be nice.
Yeah.
Okay, that sounds really good to me, because I thought that was kind of stingy. That's why I recommended that garages are on one side, and then the house space, and then a garage and house space to get the 15 feet. Rather than having 10 feet and 20 feet, so awkward. You can't even use that because there's grass there,
Sure.
you
Okay.
know.
Yeah. And then I'll also add there was, I believe in the R3 zone, the rear setback could be a minimum of 10. We increase that to 20. Again, to add more space to the rear. So that covers exactly what we've done to the setbacks. Was there any comments or questions with the parking requirements I discussed again? Kind
Yeah,
of a tiered system based on the number of bedrooms.
this is Michelle McLeod again, and I want to know about apartments, because living in an apartment isn't a choice. It's a financial matter. And when you live in an apartment, they only allow you 2 spots. Well, I have been so fortunate, I've never had to live in an apartment, but my daughter does, and you can't even go visit a person that lives in an apartment because they only have 2 spots. And all the extra parking is their extra vehicles. And I would like to see each tenant have 3.
Yes, ma'am. So yeah, with this update, it would be, for example, a 4-plex that would if it was on one lot, so in
Mhm.
4 units, they would be required to have those 4 per unit.
Okay, 4 per unit. That would be
Mhm.
excellent, because I watched the city council meetings. And I didn't like hearing that they were only going to allow people to have 2. spots.
Yeah.
And they just recently talked about that less than a month ago. I can't tell you exactly which meeting it was, but I didn't like it. And we need to treat those people like we want to be treated. And you can't even visit your kids if they don't have anywhere for you to park.
Yes, so the situation that would only require one would be if someone had a lot and they so choose to only build a 1-bedroom unit for themselves, and they so choose that they wanted one space, but on
Okay.
a lot that would have multiple units, that's when the increase in parking spaces would be required.
Great.
Okay.
While we're talking about this, just because we just put the tiny house codes in our
Of course.
codes, one parking space for tiny house, or did you?
You know, it really comes down to the lot. So if you've got the multiple units on one single lot, that's
thought it
when
was two.
it would up.
I thought it was
See,
two.
that's why I was
And
asking.
another thing about tiny homes, we okayed in the chapters, mother-in-law units, tiny homes, are they the same as a mobile tiny home? Because there's a distinguish between a camper who is self-contained and where they can park, and a tiny home is a residence without plumbing that's contained in the containment tanks. They need to be hooked up to sewers, which RV lots have both, because when I was real young gal, I lived in a camper before, or not a camper, a trailer, and they had both. So with the tiny homes, can we consider them mother-in-law homes behind houses?
So I believe, Commissioner, based on code as is and what I've worked on, those tiny home arrangements would be the tiny home communities, if you will, would be only permissible in the R3M zoning district. If you think that's like Green Acres is an R3M zoning district that currently allows for the multiple manufactured homes. If you had a larger lot that was R3M, they could say put 10 tiny homes if they so had the space for the density to do so. What you were describing sounds a lot like the accessory dwelling unit situation that we're seeing a lot of communities have. I don't think we're there yet in Benton City for having ADU code, at least not from what I saw. I
We
might have.
did talk about allowing it. In fact, we looked at plans that we approved where we let people do that. And and it's a tiny home. So technically, if you have a cement pad and you pull in your tiny home and you mount it and skirt it with tie downs, it's very similar to what we allowed.
So
When you're reading through all of the chapters, you'll probably know exactly what I mean, but a tiny home is a tiny home.
sure.
And we only allowed one on behind a dwelling on a lot that was big enough. We need to know what we're gonna allow, but we only allowed one. We didn't allow people to have like a mobile home park in their backyard.
So with the thought of outside of Benton City Code, International Building Code, something that is on wheels, mobile, is not permissible as a full-time living unit unless it is in a zone that your city's established that is like an R3M zone, like you have in Benton City, that's for RV park
Yeah,
type
the
use.
tiny homes are different than the RV lots.
Sure.
And the tiny homes hooked to the plumbing, they're not self-contained. They have real toilets, they have real water. And the sewage matters. So they're almost the same thing.
I think the difference with if you were to add that, say, on a single family lot is whatever requirement that be that would make it a permanent foundation.
Mhm.
And then it would no longer be mobile.
Most, this is land burden again, but most all RV manufacturers that I know of, without exception, do not approve of their product for full-time living.
That's true, but tiny homes do.
Tiny homes do. Now, a question I have for you, and I asked this once before, never had an answer. How do park models fit into this equation?
Sure. You know, the way in my experience, if you're able to establish a permanent foundation by the guidelines of the International Building Code, it can act as an ADU if your city's code so allows it.
Okay. But there are no, I don't know of any building standards out there for park models in existence. Is that something that needs to be looked at in our codes? A standard?
Sure.
Somebody's gonna drop a park model in.
Sure, yeah. Yes, a lot of jurisdictions are doing very interesting things to allow for those ADUs in their zones. I'm not sure what Benton City wants to see.
We have this Michelle McLeod again, we have a lot of wordings on mobile homes and the new ones, there are rules about the pitch, how high it is.
Yes,
Mhm.
And it has to be mounted on cement like a home and the ones I suppose in the trailer parks are grandfathered in, but there's a certain year of homes that cannot get a place
1976.
because it has to be a certain year.
Yeah,
And it's the same thing in an RV lot.
yes, yeah.
But I guess my point is, if a tiny home is on a cement foundation and can be hooked to the sewer, it's the same as the homes we already allowed to happen on a certain size lot. So there's a difference between a tiny home and an RV.
Yeah, technically you can think of with these ADUs is if it's something, if you had a vacant lot that you could permit as a single family residence. That would qualify as an ADU. The only difference is with an ADU code is you create allowances to make that possible on a lot that currently has a residence through those
This
developments.
Michelle again, Cloud, we just recently allowed that.
Okay,
So that's why I'm asking these questions when this came across. So it's not very far back and you'll be able to find it quite easily as you go through it. And I just wanted to make the differential between the RV and the tiny home is not the same. And we allowed a tiny home or two. So
I think this is fantastic discussion. I'll get back towards the moratorium so that
case,
I can
yes,
sorry. No, it's good discussion. Absolutely. Let me run through this timeline here. So what we're looking at right now is tomorrow, Friday, March 17th is when Commerce needs to see what we have so that they can make comment on it. It's 60 days is what they require. As you know, moratorium's ending on May 17th. So that puts us at tomorrow for those 60 days. The reason why I put that April 20th was, like I said earlier, just looking at the sequence of what I thought these planning commissions could be so that we can return back and discuss with feedback from Commerce. On Friday, May 21st, which is going to be the day after we have that next planning commission meeting, that's when public notice will go out to the community to comment on any changes there. And then we'll be able to collect any public comment all the way up until the 16th, when we'll hold that meeting to get public feedback in person and of course meet with council. And that will be the day before the moratorium lifts.
and what day again was that? That it lifts after it's,
Friday, May 17th.
okay, I got that.
So just to circle back, those sections we were looking at was the residential setbacks, that off-street parking. Another item that I am looking at doing is removing the R1M and R2M zoning districts, because those zoning districts, I just recently learned, do not exist in Benton City. There is no land, so
Say that again.
R2M and what?
R1M and R2M zoning.
And please
district.
refresh me. I don't
1M.
recall exactly what those are.
Yeah, so they were manufactured home focused zoning districts.
Okay,
We do have the R3M zoning district
Yes.
that I was discussing before. I believe that zoning district serves to cover those manufactured home
Mhm.
communities. I don't, obviously, if there's no land that's currently being utilized and nobody is looking to zone to those, I think we can remove those and clean up that zoning code if it's
So-
not being utilized.
This is Michelle McLeod. So that's just for larger size dwellings, mobile homes
Yes,
and mobile home parks.
and honestly, the larger sized zoning districts that require bigger lots, they currently allow for the mobile homes anyway. So I think through chatting with Benton City staff, it may have been zones that were put in there years and years ago that never got utilized.
Right.
And through looking at it, I think they're a little bit redundant. We already have similar zoning that
Okay.
allows for anything that those zones would allow
Well,
for.
there's a huge difference between being in a mobile home park and being on a city street
Of course,
and living in a mobile home, and our mobile home parks need help.
sure.
So that's something that we need to look at in the future. Michelle McLeod again is helping the people that are already living in mobile home parks here in town that need help.
Sure.
Because a lot of their control is basically out of their control.
Thank you, Michelle. Yeah, that's.
Yeah.
Another,
Is there any, regarding her comment, which is very valid, is there any options on, because we have a number of manufactured houses serving as rental units? Is there any way the city can instigate requirements for those rental units that have to be undertaking for safety, fire code, smoke detectors, CO detectors,
so
and safety inspections?
traditionally,
Can that be,
yeah, a jurisdiction would tackle that through, of course, code enforcement process. I think that would be the only avenue. I know that our Benton City code enforcement is very hardworking, very swamped.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, but that to my knowledge, sir, that's the only avenue to get that. There's nothing, of course.
like we don't have anything in the code for that?
We need to do something to help those people because it's a travesty what some of those folks are going through in their living conditions, and it's out of their control. And we need to do something to help them in the mobile home parks.
We got a
Because there's the owner of the mobile home parks that rent to the homeowners that own the trailers in the mobile home parks. And I suppose there's a few people that rent trailers from the owners of the trailer parks, and those people are powerless to help themselves. And we need more code enforcement so that we can do something about the situations that they're living in, because she's powerless to help them without more codes. Yes, please do.
Please, because I don't know if I should feel for these people or not.
You should go down there and look.
I don't know what you're talking about.
So Jenny,
Please.
code enforcement for the city of Benton City. I agree, there is an issue going on there. I have met with,
Please elaborate. I have no clue what you're.
well, it's kind of, so it's a little bit of a tricky situation. These parks are private. Okay, so it's privately owned, it's private property. It's falling under some different regulations. So my thought was, and I don't, I'm gonna take your guys' input too, is I did meet with some owners of some of these parks and what we can do and how we can help. And some very good ideas came up. I'd like to move forward with those owners, you know, to try to clean up. There's obviously some, you know, fire code stuff going on that needs to come into compliance. I'm also training myself and learning, you know, on that. So I actually have a WABO convention I'm going to, which I took all fire code stuff. So that, and honestly, I took that so that I could go into these parks and really know what I'm talking about, you know. I agree.
That's wonderful that you're doing that, because it's scary when you drive down there and drive through there and see what's going on.
It is. And honestly, I pretty sure we all know probably what we're talking about. I don't, you know, it's hard to go into there because there is so much compliance that needs to be done in some of these. There's also the question, we are coming out of this COVID, right? Where people haven't been paying for anything for years, you know, so we are having eviction issues. And so that was kind of my concern with talking with some of these owners is, you know, please, if you're going to start evicting people out of here, let us help, you know, let the other agencies that are here help with where are these people going to go.
And that's what scares me.
It is. It's a big thing because I mean, on my end, you know, I don't have time to chase people, you know, and I try to help people out the most I can and give them the resources. But Benton City, I've learned, has a lot of good groups that voices need to be heard, and we need to come together, you know, and be able to help some of these residents. So that was kind of one of the talks, you know, is when they're looking to comply their tenants, you know, either, you know, if they haven't been paying rent or whatnot, then let's find resources. Let's find how can they get help. If you're not going to allow them to live here, where can they go? What can we do? How can they get back onto their feet? You know, have them functioning and be safe. So I just want to let you know, it's a super concern of mine, isn't so I will take
Well, thank you very much, because that's a huge concern. And I was mostly thinking about the building, the dwellings, and the building, the sheds falling into sheds and how unsafe all that is. But you have a wonderful point there where they don't have anywhere to go either.
They don't. And so, and then there we go. That's working with you're right. Some of these places are owned and they're renting them out. Some of them are just, you know, renting. So it's a big job and it's going to take a minute, but I think education, a little bit of help from the community on getting some of these dilapidated, you know, stuff built up or tore down or whatever we have to do, but do it within the parameters of what we can do, you know, with our codes is going to be huge. Yeah. So that's something, if you guys have ideas, you can always reach out to me or any kind of
I would
concerns too.
actually like to get like some education on how to, or maybe we could do something with
Drive
the
down
city.
there.
No, because I have had people for years come to me from some of these trailer parks saying, I need to get out. There's too many drugs. I don't know what the fire hazard you're talking about, but it was like dangerous. They did not want to be there.
Yeah, no,
And
and,
there's no place they could not afford to move. So that's the dilemma.
and that's kind of the thing. And that's what I discussed with
And
these
I
owners.
don't know how to.
It's kind of like you
know,
gotta,
It's like, you're in a terrible.
and honestly, the owners are wanting to clean up as well, you know. So there was discussions about, I mean, obviously they're going to have to deal because if there is a drug issue and stuff like that, you know. I mean, these people are obviously going to have to be offered the resources in order to, you know, because otherwise they're probably going to get evicted, right? And we don't want them dispersing through town, kind of. That's my concern, is let's give them every resource they can and let's get them to some place that maybe they can get help and whatnot. And let's get these residents that are actually, you know, trying to thrive within this area of a good health, safety place to live.
This is Michelle McLeod, and I completely agree with you, because we already have this happening in Kennewick and Pasco, you know, where people are just living out in the parks and on the street. So helping them is more important. I think we're getting way off course here, but
Yeah, but I just
It's-
wanted to know,
it's-
I put my 2 cents in on that.
yeah, I completely agree with you.
Okay.
Just so you know, because I work in that semi field, because I work in mental health.
Mhm.
Benton City at this point is known as the fentanyl capital of the area.
It's kind of scary. I didn't even know this. And yes, the more I find out, the more. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and it's important, to get these people some resources. And of course, you're going to get the ones that don't want the help, but then,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Then you're going to have to take corrective action or whatever's going to have to, but yeah, get the people to help. I was, kind of surprised in how it had mingled down into here, and it's concerning.
Well, maybe one of those 10 meetings we have during that we have to fulfill, maybe we could have a workshop just to bring some community ideas and concerns like this
Yeah.
together. This would be great.
And I think
Something to
it,
talk
I
about
think it would
it.
be great to bring in the other organizations. Like, I mean, you have Benton City Community Health or, well, all kinds, if you go online, there's all kinds of groups that I didn't honestly know about. And
Yes.
let's resource them, bring them together and let's do things.
Thank you.
This is Margaret. May I have the floor?
Yes, Margaret.
Another venue that would be good to help is, it's called Benton City Coalition for Healthy Benton City.
Yes,
And that
Margaret,
would
that's
be-
the one I was trying to think of. Thank you.
Okay,
Yeah,
Yeah, that's Mrs. Funk's area.
right. And there's so many assets here in Benton City and there's so much help to be given, it's just, we just got to get together and
And all I knew about was a spay and neuter clinic.
I love that clinic though, don't you?
Don't decide if we did that.
In some of those RV parks, and a couple of them that the landlords are not. I've been in them, I'm dumbfounded that the issues you see, both from safety and that, and my gut feeling, I like the suggestion of workshop. When they have a new tenant, the city inspects it and we say it's rentable or it's not rentable. Or you need to bring it up to code compliance by taking care of these things. I mean, we had the fire down there a couple of years ago where we lost a large number of lives, and it was tragic. All because no fire detector, smoke detectors.
Yeah.
You know?
And that's a good question because I'm still learning all about the job, right? And so then I noticed you might be familiar with City of Pasco. They do fire inspections, but they also require business licenses on rentals, I believe. Like if you're going, which we don't require that. So that's something that we would have to look at because it's really very hard to enforce if you can't, enforce on it because there's no codes on it.
That's a system that does allow for that level of oversight and the point of inspecting and in return it is.
excuse me, Mike, could you speak into the?
It is.
microphone?
So I like
Margaret
that.
can't hear you.
Could you speak into the microphone? please?
Yes, I apologize, Margaret. I was just saying that requiring business licenses for rentals is a good system to have those checks and balances. It's a good way to create the infrastructure for that. It creates a good way to integrate inspection and it in return creates advocacy for those renters.
I would really like to see that.
That would be a good solution.
Because we do require business licenses for apartments for that kind of stuff, but not for your house that you're renting out or the trailer that's being rented out or.
I do think I'd like to maybe we
Yeah.
can consider having a workshop
Yeah.
in the future. So
Thank you.
that would be
Thank
great.
you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for doing that.
I need to get out about more.
I'm glad people brought that up. I think it's really important. It really is.
Thank you, Don.
Yeah, it's something that needs to be done and make people accountable for what they have. If they got businesses, they got places that they rent, they need to be in compliance.
Mhm.
If people have issues, then those issues should be addressed.
Well, since we're working on ordinances, this is the best time to figure all that out.
It is. It's very good to bring that up, and it's very good to bring it up in an ordinance to make people accountable for what they're doing. So that's important. I'm glad this came up. It needs to be brought up.
Okay. To circle back to my items, I think I've covered everything related to the moratorium. And hopefully I helped clarify those timelines. So we know the path moving forward. I'm happy to answer any questions, and I can give you folks my card if you want to reach out to me directly outside of this meeting.
Please.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes,
yeah,
thank
just
you.
Shuffle the cards,
Yeah.
send them around. I'm sorry, try to get your phone.
All right. That was
So the
really,
city council expressed concern that we don't burn up that 50 grand too fast. Be real careful with it.
We, we get a lump sum for the year.
We got you for a year.
well,
So if we take you.
I want to stick around here for a long time. I'm really loving this community.
So we need to bring pizza to the meetings, is what you're saying?
Sure,
I hope you
that'll
can
work.
bring.
We used to have a lady that brought water and
Okay,
treats.
before we get too off kilter here, folks, we got another section to go through, the I-82 sub-plan. We got one more portion of the agenda, please.
One follow-up though, on your point, like,
Sorry.
I would be excited about the prospect of this public or planning director too. I feel like things like those areas will be super beneficial to have in-house resources that can help,
Mhm.
like Jenny and Carla, and kind of get some of these things implemented. So that was great. All right, so final topic we were hoping to chat with you about is this sub-area plan. And so I know you all are very familiar with it, far more familiar than myself and Mike are. So we're trying to catch up. And let's see here. And, I know, so, like I mentioned, Mike and Rachel have been really focused on the moratorium. And I've been thinking about, the sub-area plan, mainly catching up and then getting a plan in place or a schedule where I can sync up with, Mike and Rachel, and then the three of us can, figure out, what needs to happen there. Part of my struggle is understanding exactly where that sits in the process. So I've seen the material on the internet, on the website, the reports, the preliminary draft. And then I've seen the property and the neighborhoods. And then I've reviewed the public hearing meeting minutes from January 31st. And so sub-area plans are a really big deal, as you all know. It requires an amendment to the comprehensive plan. And so for Benton City, with comp plan amendments, you're allowed to do it once annually. That's it. And so for Benton City, that's between June 1 and June 30th of each calendar year. So not knowing exactly what the desire is to get that amended into the comprehensive plan. I know, like, our target is for this cycle in June, to hit that comp plan amendment. And so what remains to be completed is a public hearing before the city council, and it's a preliminary public hearing where they're just taking comment back from public of, no different than what you all did. And the stage of where everything's at, is I know the council's eager to hear that and go through that process. My opinion on how we should proceed is, because the majority of that work was completed by AHBL, and they've already completed the public hearing with Planning Commission. And then it sounds like they provided recommendations, and then they've submitted that to Department of Commerce for the 60-day review. And that's no different than what Mike's prepping for the moratorium. So in the meeting minutes, it states that the 60-day comment period closes on March 28th. So next week, or shortly after, it soon. And so with the timing of everything, I feel like the schedule we should put in place is receiving the comments from Department of Commerce, because those are going to be very important of, what we need to do to ratify it, approve it, rethink of the schedule. We don't know what those comments are right now. And, there are a lot of, hot topics in the state with Department of Commerce and Growth Management Act requirements. So I propose that we receive the comments on the 28th. We present to the city council in a public hearing on April 4th. And that way we'll have the recommendation. We'll have the comments from Department of Commerce. We can do the preliminary public hearing with city council and receive comment from the public, get feedback from the city council. And then we can start the process of prepping it for a comp plan amendment, which ultimately brings it back to the planning commission. You'll review a recommendation from the planning staff. You'll make a recommendation to city council to, approve or disapprove. And then they'll carry it forward into, final. I don't know if the second one, I don't know if they were required to do a second public hearing, but a final decision by the city council, which would be through an ordinance, which would amend the comprehensive plan. And so, that's the schedule that I would kind of like to, I would like to follow and put in place. I think it works well with timing of, the April 20th meeting and us, running it through city council. I feel like it gives us time to, review Department of Commerce comments and, adjust accordingly. I feel like it gives Mike and I the opportunity to kind of get more knowledgeable about, what the city's goal is with the sub-area plan. We can put some strategy in place to maybe cover some community outreach and, either through notifications of the open meetings, direct notification through mailers or postings or, what have you, workshops. We can start to build a plan around that. So, so that's kind of the primary thing on the sub area that I wanted to discuss as far as schedule. And then other than that, just kind of any general feedback or recommendations from this group that Mike and I can start thinking about. I know, go ahead.
Have you had the opportunity to see the videos on the 2 meetings that we had on a workshop that had the community here, from the mayor to property owners to the superintendent of public schools? Lynn and I were both I was at one of them. She was at both of them, and Dawn saw them too. And it might be nice for us all to review them again. I would like the link to that myself so that I could watch the second one, because that will give you an understanding of where we were headed.
Yeah.
And the ideas that the public had, because there was a lot of people here, and that might help you get a better vision of where we were heading as far as city planning goes, because there were a lot of key players that were here with definite ideas of what to do with that property over there and get it in place before DNR sold it, so that developers couldn't just come in and do whatever they wanted in sections and pieces and all mishmash.
Okay.
So our plan, although we don't own the land, no one owns the land but DNR, we're trying to establish what the people of Benton City want there prior to intervention from people buying the land and wanting to develop. And it would be really beneficial for you to see that.
Okay.
If
What
you-
time frame was this?
I believe it was in August.
maybe we could get the dates for them and maybe the link.
Also,
I'd like to see the second one.
also, I mean, they went, the people, I thought they were from Seattle. They came and spent 2 days, took pictures, all of this kind of stuff, and they developed a plan that people liked, had input in, you know, and I understand that, you know, this is over a 20-year period, but it kind of was laid out with, and then we filled out a questionnaire, open up to the city. You know, do you like these kind of walls? Do you like this look on this type of street? So that there was, you know, that there was some input from not just us, but from people in the city. And then all of a sudden, the last time we discussed this, it was totally different than what we had agreed on back at those meetings. And I'm like, where did, yeah, I can understand maybe they can't put an elementary school in right now, but you know, there should be a place for that. If there's going to be, you know, they were talking about hundreds of houses and these guys are talking about hardly any compared to what the original people were talking about.
Right.
You know, they were talking about a boutique a motel, which I always thought that was a little over above, but anyway, you know, but you could have that land set aside if, you know, if it down the road, if that works. And it's like they axed out a lot of stuff that people agreed upon.
Well, there's this Michelle McLeod again. There were definite ideas on what to do with that property and what types of businesses to build towards the freeway and the whole direction of the roadways and how everybody's streets would interpath with the development, the storefronts, and the school would be, if down the road, if this ever happens, would be centrally located and there'd be parks and it would all be connected. It wouldn't be a big disconnect.
Sure.
Because if you try to use your Google map, for instance, everywhere you
Hey,
go, disconnect.
This is Margaret. May I have the floor a minute?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, you're talking about Mike Mahaffey, who came out and did the design.
Yeah.
Michael Mahaffey.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
ma'am.
He has the contract right now to work on the design standards for that area. He already has that contract to work on the design standards.
Well, how come those other people changed it? When what they presented was totally different than what we talked about last August.
Well, they didn't, that was their ideas, but Michael Mahaffey, I think he's going to have the last ideas.
Okay.
So, and he's working on the design standards at this time.
This is Don Allen. Jeannie, may I have the floor?
Yes, sir.
I was at those meetings, all of them, I think. And I listened to them talk. I understand a lot of you have the concerns of that and well-meaning, because we did bring up different issues. And they did bring to us of what they found in that area that was stuck in their mind would be really a good idea of how to put it together and how to address it to the people of the city. And I think they did a good job of that. But it was just a package that they could put together so they had something that they could bring to us and we could look at as a people. And when you start talking about a big mass area up there and a lot of acreage that can be developed and all the housing and all the development, it would bombard this area if it just went up instantly. So this is an attack that's going to be going on a very slow schedule and work as we go plan, I guess you could say. And that right now is, I think, what they had in mind. And I think we're going to continue with that. I don't think that's going to change. I think they addressed the idea of having schools. The superintendent said that in our district, the school, I believe it was the principal of the area, I asked him about the schools and how that would be addressed. And he said that I said, do you have extra land around your schools right now? So if you had to develop to make them bigger, you could do that, because it would take a tremendous amount of building to accommodate all that area. It's just like having another city up there. And we're not set up for that, but they have the land here by our schools, all of the schools that have enough land that they can expand and make accommodate for a lot bigger amount of kids to come. So I think that's really important, and they did bring that up. So.
Dawn, do you mind if I say something about that?
Sure,
Mr.
please.
Peterson is the superintendent, and he said that that extra property up there will probably be an extension of the schools that already exist to improve them. And when I read the paperwork, it distinctly said that DNR
Mhm.
oftentimes trades property for schools. So that's something way down the road, because this property still belongs to DNR.
Yes,
So there are a lot of angles that could happen if this development ever takes place.
there you go. Very well said. Yeah, that's
Thank
true.
you.
And the other thing that they brought up is if an area up there, because they have to pay for the swim team to go out and the soccer team to go out, because we don't have those things in this area and probably other teams that I'm not aware of. So they're paying to transport the buses to transport them. They're paying to rent the areas, the facilities where they have to practice and everything in that. And again, long-term down there, but to looking into putting those things, facilities here, and that also could be an income to the city as we rent them out. And then we wouldn't have to bus our kids.
Well, we had a grant. I could be wrong. I doubt it. I think it was $18 million, and we lost that grant because of some of the decisions of prior people that worked here at the city. Because we didn't purchase the property and we didn't break ground, so we had to give it back.
Yeah.
And so if we have the opportunity to do something similar to that in the future, if they were to build a school at some point down the road, a size field would be something good. And the motel idea towards the freeway, also with a large enough pool, like the M Motel in Richland, they rent theirs out, and that could be used by school and public as well. So there's like a huge vision of a lot of people that we all talked about. So I think that seeing those videos would be helpful to see the plan. We even talked about apartments that look like houses and make it more friendly, like a village. And so there's just a lot of things that would help you guys in your vision to see what the vision of was from that diverse group, because they were from every aspect of our lives.
Yeah. No, I'll do some research on those videos. So those were just council meeting
They were
videos.
They were like a workshop.
Yeah, they were 2-day workshops.
Okay.
I'm not too sure it's not in the sub area.
I'm pretty sure they're online.
Okay.
Well, getting them the link, I'd like to have the link.
There isn't a page for the sub area, and so maybe they're on there. And sometimes I don't go to the videos because it's until I have a specific task that I need to do.
I know
I
it
will
was
look at that.
recorded just like this is.
Yeah. The one thing I'll just kind of clarify from my perspective when I'm thinking of the sub area plan, and what Mike and I need to really understand is time frame for the comp plan amendment, and what's what the desire is for the commission and the council, and supporting that effort to hit that 30-day window. And if we miss that window, we go to June of 2024.
Right. It's just like
And
losing the grant.
yeah, well, and
Almost.
to me, when I think of sub area, because sub area is so comprehensive and it's an extensive process that takes years to mold and develop appropriately. And so that's where I'm again kind of going back to this comment period from Department of Commerce, because it will be very interesting to hear what they say about it, because there may be things that we're not even considering from a statewide perspective with changes in regulation, GMA, Department of Commerce requirements for affordable housing and, preventing sprawl and incorporating climate change elements. And so that's where I just want to be, really understand, what those thoughts are. And then also understand what's submitted, because quite honestly, I haven't seen what Commerce is reviewing yet. I can't get my hands on that. So I need to find that document that was uploaded. And then the other thing to think about with sub area plans is, it's a sub area encompassing a large district. And so it's essentially like a stepped approach. And so, once you're defining that sub area, then tasks like the work Mike's doing on, design standards or whatever that is, that starts to shape and mold, what that sub area is going to look like. And then things that like Department of Commerce would be interested is in density and level of service for utilities, transportation, impacts to school systems, networks, access to parks, impacts to the freeway or to the sub area from the freeway, all those things. And then if you think of a sub area, it's like a little micro city, right? You've got little zoning districts basically within that sub area. So when you're talking about a possible like anchor tenant, maybe there's almost like a master plan resort zoning designation within the sub area plan. So in concept as one idea. And so that's where, again, I'm trying to like be poised to receive the comments from Department of Commerce, bring it before commission and council for direction. And if we need to, pull the trigger to hit the 2023 comp plan amendment, we'll be ready to do that. Or if there's, kind of phase steps where, maybe we need to, depending on Commerce's feedback, we need to kind of adjust, or we need to, maybe there's something that we need to address and it's going to take a minute to really reevaluate it. So those are my only thoughts there. I'm totally in alignment with, establishing it and getting it, approved through ordinance and amended in the comp plan as quickly as we can. So, I think that's kind of where we're at on that. Yeah, I'm excited about it. It's going to be fabulous.
I'm excited too,
Yeah.
to see what we can or can't
Yeah,
do with our dream
I know.
that the city has.
I just think it's gonna take so much time. I'm not gonna get too excited yet.
Well,
Yet.
But getting the ordinances
Well, that part
correct
does,
is
but I
really
mean,
important for me.
developing
Oh, yeah.
that
Yeah.
portion. That's,
Well,
yeah,
it's kind of
It'll
fun.
give
Yeah.
them direction to know what can and can't be done.
Yeah.
yeah.
That's important.
Which,
Because right now it's just speculation.
It'll be fun,
yes.
fun endeavor.
Mhm. With that, we were going to cover schedules. I think we have some direction there. This has been really awesome. I appreciate everyone's time and, taking their evening to meet with us and have a great discussion, and Jenny jumping in. I appreciated your discussion too, Jenny. Thanks for having us here. Thanks for letting us be involved in Benton City business. And with that, I don't have anything left to say.
No,
Thank you,
thank you.
folks.
Thank you and welcome aboard.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Does anybody have any, Dawn, do you have any more questions, comments for the meeting?
No, I think you guys did to me, when watched you all the way through this, I think you showed some professionalism that I really appreciate. And I'm glad to see that. And it's not like, well, it's all us. It's not all you. It's us, the people. And I like to see that from you. And that's what you're showing me. And I'm glad for that. Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
Oh, and I'm not, and I don't have the shakes anymore, so I'm actually not fluttering.
Good job.
Yeah, you're much better looking now, Dawn.
Well, I kind of fluttered because I didn't have enough drugs, I guess. I don't know.
Watch that fentanyl.
Don't go any further with
Are
it.
there any other topics for the meeting
Don't
before
do-
I adjourn?
do
so we
not
can
do
have real
drugs.
Conversation.
Yeah, I
Okay,
don't do that. No, I don't do that. Yeah, okay.
okay, I'm gonna adjourn the meeting. Okay, at 7:39, and now we can all talk and have fun. Oh.